Clark Blumenstein, and I own Blumenstein Audio, which is a small loudspeaker company out of Tacoma, Washington. I make compact, bookshelf, single driver, full range type speakers, direct radiator, and a bass reflex ported enclosure. I probably had the first thought that it could be a career when I was listening to headphones, a very good pair of Sennheiser HD 600 headphones. I was listening to some of my favorite music, and it was having such a powerful effect that I thought, gosh, what if I could someday be a designer of a product like this that could have such a powerful effect over someone and make them see and hear their music in a whole different way. So in college I met Terry Kane of Kane & Kane Audio, and he was a small, very similar as to what I am now, single driver wood shop manufacturing just loudspeakers for the world market. And he was quickly becoming famous after having started that speaker lineup in 2001. Prior to that, he had been a cabinet maker for 35 years and quite successful. Kind of once I heard his put together stereo, I immediately made the mental transition from, oh, headphones are the only thing that can do this, you know, this amazing journey of the mind inside of music, to speakers are what I'm going to focus on. He and I became pretty close, and it was sort of understood that I would work for him indefinitely after college. I would have easily worked for him for 40 years. He was a good person. And, but unfortunately he passed away an untimely death of Lou Gehrig's disease. He amounted that to having spent a lot of time around noxious chemicals, and that generation of woodworkers is very common. He was like, look, you could build speakers for 40 years, but you're not going to build them for 40 years if you use the same stuff I did. Don't ever buy a spray booth. Don't ever build a wood shop like I had. He said, yours is going to look different. To, you know, not only honor his wishes, but just to honor my own health, I, you know, switched to linseed oil product at that time. So the internal glue in the plywood that I use is a non-toxic glue for me to use without a ton of dust protection. Obviously, I still use dust protection. The bamboo as well is a zero formaldehyde interior glue of the plywood itself. You know, those features alone weren't really available 15, 20 years ago. So it's actually quite an exciting time to be a sustainable woodworker. There's quite a lag time of awareness, of course, from the consumer market to the designers. The consumers, I think, are way ahead of the curve in what they're asking for in terms of reusable packaging from things you buy at the grocery store. So why wouldn't I do the same thing to the loudspeakers? Headphones are a single driver, and they're very accurate because they're a small single driver. And I started to realize that the very small single drivers have a presentation that's quite headphone-like. Extreme accuracy to the point where you don't even notice that they're being accurate. It's just like looking through a perfectly clear window. You don't actually notice that there's a window there. The issue with multiple drivers is that the sound sources will not arrive at your ear at necessarily the same time if you get up and walk around the room. So single driver pair of speakers will give headphone-like presentation no matter where you're standing, because the different sound sources aren't having to recombine. And furthermore, there is a similarity to the way that our ear is constructed. So we have a single, it's called the tympanic membrane, and it's the closest equivalent that we have in our body to a loudspeaker driver is the tympanic membrane. It's at the end of a tunnel, the ear canal, that guides, and it's called a waveguide specifically. So I was thinking, you know, we have a single tympanic membrane, and that's a biological substance. And I was noticing that paper cone cellulose drivers have the most natural presentation, not just to me, but you know, noticing every audiophile I was talking to, and non-audiophile, so people that just happen to appreciate music were preferring paper cone type of a sound. So this size was developed to sound really awesome in smaller apartment spaces. And the first culture to really take hold of that living environment with music reproduction was small Japanese apartments. So it is one of these situations where you've got really well-built skyscrapers in Tokyo, and people who are working at Sony by day, and then at night they still want a really great music system, but they actually do not have the space to put a large driver speaker in the bookshelf. So these were developed as a maximum potential of a 5-inch driver or an 8-inch driver, but just in a small driver package. So the first company to really do that well, in my opinion, was Fostex. And I still use Fostex drivers, and they still make their drivers almost exactly as they were in the 70s, with obvious improvements made based upon material science available to us. But they're still using paper cone. They're still making them for lower listening levels as well. There's this whole debate in audio land of, does a speaker's looks matter at all for the sound? And it has been shown time and again, yes. And we know this because the way that you test the sound of a speaker is with a double blind comparison. In other words, you aren't looking at what you're listening to because it's well acknowledged that it's going to affect your perception. The question I started to ask myself was, okay, so the speakers, the looks and the sound and there's this big debate, but what are the speakers doing when they're not playing? They're just sitting there like a piece of furniture. Ding, 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 that's your answer. So they have to be a piece of furniture if they're going to sit there and not look like a couple of black painted, chunky, 6-foot-tall, often boxes. I noticed that in the Japanese blogs that I was following in the early 2000s, as well as Terry Kane was following, that the builders, so there are these prolific DIYers that build a new pair of speakers every month for themselves. And the material that they were preferring for their nicer projects was called lumber core plywood, and that was where it's a band of solid wood inside of the plywood. And one step back from that is where you have wood core plywood. So that's where every single layer is the same material quality as the outer layer. And also, typically the outer layer is quite thick in that case because this is the same thickness as the interior layers as well. So I found that material not only sounded better, but it refinishes quite a number of times at the end user's home as well. They can hand sand it and apply a little bit more oil on top to repair any scratches or dings that show up. And it's also relatively inexpensive. So the bamboo plywood is actually quite interesting because the caramelized color is actually the same material as the natural color, it's just been baked in an oven. So it's slightly harder. Audibly, you can kind of knock on it. It sounds a little bit higher frequency natural pitch, or natural resonant pitch. Birch is This is a little bit brighter, and then the natural bamboo, the non-caramelized, is kind of in the middle. We mix the two materials together to get the two-tone color option, which is the caramelized sides and the natural bamboo middle. All the sound differences between the materials are very minute because I use solid wood internal bracing. It's the same skeletal structure for all the models. It doesn't matter what wood you purchase, we still build the interior up quite a bit. So the real tone quality that we're getting is actually Douglas fir solid, which is a very high pitch. It's like a xylophone key. It's like ding, ding, ding. And so adding that type of strength to weight ratio to the plywood makes the plywood much more bright and natural sounding. I make two different models. One is a 3-inch and one is an 8-inch. The 3-inch drivers are closer to their peak performance at average listening levels that are actually encountered in actual homes most often. The 3-inch ones are completely reliable at making low volume playback sound exquisite. And it's oftentimes the most ignored range. And to me, I'm like, why? Because that's most of everybody's listening. You have background music on, and you might turn it up to foreground music. My speakers definitely have that capability, but they don't go beyond foreground. So they're not going to assault you with, butt-rattling bass. It's not about that at all. And the artists, mostly the musicians that we're listening to, weren't trying to do that to people anyways. They're trying to tickle the mind, to wake people's curiosity up. That's very interesting. So to me, making a speaker that is extremely delicate and detailed is the first priority. And the second priority is physical impact. The 3-inch driver is sort of the first rung on the ladder. So if you have the need of listening, to everyday volume levels, you know that you're not going to crank it or need to crank it. Maybe you're a more mature music appreciator. The 3-inch is the one for you. If you, on the other hand, like to rock out from time to time, don't get a 5-inch, get my 8-inch, because you need the extra power. What I notice in my own company about the service that I'm able to provide my clients is it being different from every other stereo store in the world is that they get to talk straight to me. The business line dials my number. I spend however much time is needed to educate my clients on various needs of their audio system and non-needs. So I'm oftentimes able to save people a ton of money and them asking me, hey, I was thinking about buying this or that, and what would you recommend? And I'm not saying that certain products are bunk or this or that. It's just that I'm able to guide people into the specific associated equipment that maximizes the performance of what they're getting from me. I just want people to have speakers that not only fit into the home, but fit into their budget, fit their ears, fit the music, don't annoy the neighbors. But why would it be so crazy to have such a responsible approach? And that's the paradox of my company, is that the speakers are that different, but they're so normal. They're so expected. When you hear, that's what I hear from a lot of my clients. They say I've never seen or heard speakers like this, but I am gravitated towards precisely that. So why aren't more speakers like your speakers? They're hard to make.